Let's bring in Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor, and Mark Bednar, Republican strategist and former communications head for Kevin McCarthy. Gentlemen, lots of stuff to get into here. Mark, to you first, there's been no trial here. There's been no legal course of action. Should Swalwell be in this much trouble?
Well, it's interesting because Democrats, they've been unwilling to rid themselves of their Swalwell problem for years, but not for lack of opportunity. So looking back to when it was originally found out that he was compromised by his relationship with a Chinese spy, Democrats fought tooth and nail to keep him on the Intel Committee, the committee where we keep our nation's secrets. And then, after Speaker McCarthy removed him from the committee, they fought tooth and nail yet again. And this story, I don't think has ever been actually reported, but his lack of judgment was even so widely circulated among members. They were concerned about a time when he brought his personal laptop on a trip to the Middle East. That picture with him and his buddy Ruben Gallego. He brought his personal laptop and actually checked it at the airport. You know, a massive error of judgment here. And now we have this situation with these allegations, which either have, perilous legal ramifications or they're violations of his own office's HR policy. Just crazy.
Yeah, Richard, this thing is snowballing for Swalwell. What should happen next?
I think that seems to be right, John. One, I do think that the congressman deserves due process. He seems to likely be getting that in New York. With that being said, due process doesn't take away from the fact that the voters of California want to talk about affordability. They want to talk about gas prices. They want to talk about the price at the grocery store, and they can't because of this, which is why I do believe the floodgates have sort of opened here, and there's so many Democrats saying that he should drop out of this race, and I tend to agree with him. And here's the reason why there's so many young people across this country that are disillusioned by our democracy, because you have folks like Eric Swalwell, you have folks like former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who are in places of power, and it feels as though the people in power have more power than the power of the people, and they can get away with the things like this without being properly vetted, and they get to sort of stay in power while there are real issues affecting the American people. And because of that, I think he should drop out, and maybe she should get fired.
Richard, if he has lost Nancy Pelosi, does he stand a chance of staying in the House?
We'll have to wait to see. And there's a House ethics process that will likely take up in the next couple of days. I think there's that. I think there's what's happening in New York. So I think there's a number of ways where he will get due process. And if he says he's innocent, he's going to have to clear his name. But the reporting here, whether it's CNN, whether it's other outlets, shows that it's pretty damning and it's pretty heartbreaking. And I hope these victims do get their day.
A lot of Democrats, Mark, have pulled their endorsement of him, as was reported earlier. But I don't hear a lot of calls for him to resign his seat in Congress.
Which is incredible. You would think and you would hope that the media, whenever they're reporting about all these calls to end his gubernatorial campaign, why do these Democrats think he's unfit to run for governor of California, but that he is fit to represent 800,000 Californian constituents in Congress? To me, there needs to be a lot of follow-up, and all these Democrats, they need to show why they're comfortable with him in office in the House, but they're not comfortable with him in office in the governor's seat in California.
He says that there wasn't a rape, Richard, but he has apparently apologized to his wife. So something happened that you're not supposed to be doing in the confines of a marriage.
That seems to be right based on the video that we're seeing and also based on the reporting, which is why I hope that the congressman gets his due process, which seems to be the case, like I said, in New York. And I do hope that members of Congress take him to the Ethics Committee where there can be an investigation, where his fellow colleagues could look into what happened and see if he violated any of Congress's ethics rules. And if he did, I hope they could render a verdict that says, we don't believe you should serve here in this body. And while that's happening, I hope people in his congressional district, which he's no longer seeking that seat, will have a chance to elect new representation.
All right, Richard Fowler and Mark Bednar, we will continue to keep an eye on the Eric Swalwell case. Let our viewers know what happens. Thank you both.
Good to see you, John. Take good care.
You too, Mark.